Hello everybody, welcome to Grade 12 Paper 1 Winter School. In this video, I analyze the syllabus and give you some strategies to help you with your studies. I also discuss the November 2020 Paper 1 Question 1 in full, and I take you through the explanations as well as how the examiners mark and where marks are allocated. The first question is all about grade 11 algebra and inequalities. It counts 22 out of the 150, and this means 14.6%. Now, if you think about it, if you get full marks for question 1, you only need another 15% to pass paper 1. My suggestion is that you practice the grade 11 work and put a big effort in on this question. Let's look at the question. So by now you know this question is all about solving x. On number 1, you will take out a common factor. Number 1.2, when the question says correct to 2 decimal places, we know we're going to use the quadratic formula. Number 1.3, this is an inequality, 3 marks coming your way. Question 1.4, this is an equation that contains a square root, so you will square both sides, 5 marks, easy peasy. Question 1.2, this is your simultaneous equation, you can expect this one will be there. And then number 1.3 can be a bit challenging, but let me explain it, and I am convinced that you will be able to do a similar question. Let's discuss the question from the beginning. 1.1, solve for x. And then they give you the equation. The equation is already in standard form, so you can factorize by pulling out x as a common factor, and you end with x is 0 or x is 6. And this is worth 2 marks. 1.1.2, they give you the equation there and they want you to solve for x correct to 2 decimal places. So they are giving you a hint. The correct to 2 decimal places means that you need to use the quadratic formula, living on the quadratic, on the formula sheet, And then remember the coefficient, the number of x squared, the number in front of x squared, that is a's value. The coefficient of x is b's value, and the constant term, the number on its own, that one is c's value. Into the quadratic formula from the formula sheet, please make sure that you copy that one correctly, and then you substitute. Remember, when you substitute, use plenty of brackets, and you slot that one in your calculator, and you get x is minus 0.88 or x is minus 9.1. And please be careful with your rounding, because they specifically said correct to 2 decimal places. And then where's the marks? The substitution into the quadratic formula and your 2 answers correct to 2 decimal places. 1.1.3, solve that inequality. So the first thing you have to do is you have to FOIL or multiply out the brackets. Now in the next step, I'm going to add my like terms, and then I want to factorize, but I cannot factorize if there's a minus in front of x squared. Therefore, I will divide away the minus. Please watch out for this one. When you divide an inequality with a negative, then your sign swaps. Now I can find the factors, making brackets there. I find x plus 2, x minus 1. Now, since this is an inequality, this is not your answer. You do something that you find your critical values. And your critical values you find inside your bracket, but not x plus 2. This is going to be negative 2. And then not x minus 1, it's going to be plus 1. And then what you do with your critical values is you give yourself a help sketch in the form of a parabola. And then you're going to say that this value is -2 and that value is 1. And please note, I'm not including the values there because this wasn't included. It was only greater than. And then when it is greater than, your answer will lie that way, which means x is smaller than -2, or your answer is that way, x is greater than 1. And there's your answers. And remember, don't include. And then where's the marks? The marks are your factorization and then your interpretation. 1.1.4, that is an equation that contains a square root. And what you do is, to get rid of the root, you square both sides. Remember, when you square on the right-hand side, you put one bracket around both terms. And then when you square a square root, the square root falls away. And on the right-hand side, you're going to turn that into two brackets and you're going to FOIL it out. Then in the next step, I'm going to take all my terms to the right-hand side, and then I'm going to add my like terms. And I end with x squared minus 5x minus 14. And now I'm going to factorize. I get x minus 7x plus 2. And my answer is x is 7 or x is -2. Now you're going to say, what is this? Why isn't x is -2 not a solution? Because in an equation that contains surd, you have to test whether the solutions you got will yield the left-hand side equal to the right-hand side. So now I'm going to test x is 7. I substitute it into the left-hand side. So in x's place, I put 7, I get a 5. Now I take that very same 7 and I substitute it in x's place. On the right-hand side, there was x minus 2. So in x's place, I put 7, I get 5. So the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. That is why x is 7 is a solution. And then if I test x is -2, the same thing, I substitute -2 into the left-hand side. I get a 4. And now I take the very same -2, I substitute it into the right-hand side. Can you see -2? And now I get -4. So 4 is not equal to -4. It means the left-hand side is not equal to the right-hand side. Therefore, x cannot be -2. And then where's your marks? You squared, where you squared both sides, your factors, and then your two answers, x is 7, x is -2, and then where x is 7 is a solution, and then x is not equal to -2, your other solution. One point two, solve simultaneously for x and y. So what you do, you look at your two equations, and then I suggest you take the first equation and then you can get either x or y alone. I made y the subject of the formula. It really doesn't matter. What is important is that you label that one equation 1, and then you also label the second equation equation 2. And now what you're going to do is you're going to substitute number 1 into number 2. That means everywhere where you see a y in the second equation, you are going to substitute minus x plus 3. And remember, when you substitute, very important, use brackets. So what's going to happen is now I'm going to take the plus 4x and multiply into minus x and plus 3, and I'm going to take the minus 1 and I'm going to multiply it in. You say you use the distributive property of multiplication. Then I'm going to add all my like terms. 2x squared minus 4x squared is minus 2x squared, and 12x plus x is 13x. Now I want to factorize, but I cannot factorize if there's a minus in front of x squared. Therefore, I will divide right through by a minus. So now I'm going to make two brackets. I'm going to factorize. If you can't do that, you're welcome to use the quadratic formula to find the factors. So the factors are 2x minus 9, x minus 2. Therefore, your answer is x is 9 over 2 or x is 2. But that's only half of the solution because you have to solve for y and x. So you solved x. What you do, now you take x 9 over 2 and you substitute in either number 1 or 2. I did it in number 1 because it's just so much easier. So there, x is x is 9 over 2 into number 1. I get y is negative 3 over 2, and I take x is 2 and I substitute into number 1 and I get y is equal to 1. So where is the marks? The marks are where you made y the subject of the formula, your substitution, your two x values, your two y values. (1.3) If n is the largest integer of which n to the power 200 smaller than 5 to the power 300, determine the value of n. Right, so what I did here, I factorized, I took out 2, and then I'm left with n squared bracket 100, because 2 times 100 is 200. And on this one, I took out 3, and then 3 times 100 is 300. And then on the right, 5 to the 3 is 125. And then this one is n squared to the power of 100, and that one is 125 to the power of 100. And then the hundreds fall away because both of them have that same power. And you end with n squared is smaller than 125. And what's the answer? The maximum value of n is 11, because if you think about it, 11 squared is 121, and the number just after 11 is 12, and 12 squared is 144. Can you see that one is too big because you want smaller than 125, and therefore the maximum value of n is 11. Where's the marks? There we wrote it in that form, n squared smaller than 125, and then the final answer.
The next topic I will discuss is sequences and series. Click on the video in the left-hand corner to take you straight to that question.